Welcome to the Soul Space Channel, the UFO Alien Evidence File. Subscribe to the channel pressing the subscribe button. Nearly every day new videos. Press the bell to be notified when new videos are uploaded. Mind Control, The Truth by Fritz Springmeier.
Control, her mind was split 30,000 ways. Now, you take those pieces of the mind, yeah, tremendous amount of trauma. Think of the amount of trauma it takes to split the mind and then multiply that times 30,000 times. Tremendous amount of trauma all through these people's lives. So you take that piece and you can make that piece of the mind into anything you want. Now let's say they take one piece and they show up films, and through the programming they make it into a particular personality. Well, what they want to do is they want to make the most perfect front for their slave possible. And so they will test a slave, they will test a victim that they're going to make into a mind-controlled puppet. They'll test them when they're a small child. And I go into the techniques in the book as to how they can test as to what your abilities are. They use EKG tests, and they know how to determine what your abilities are as a small child as to when you would grow up. So they plan out your life ahead of time. They say, this one will be a doctor, this one will be a lawyer, this one will be a scientist working on rockets, this one will be this one will be that, okay? And depending on what they're wanting you for will determine the type of programming they give you. So it's very systematic, and because the movers and shakers of the world have all of the resources, basically, they can move these people into whatever field they decide for them, so they become the top of their field. Now, their front personalities are very legitimate, sincere people. They don't know about the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde effect. Imagine yourself being a Christian minister and horrors of horrors finding out that you've got disassociated parts of yourself that are Satanists, that are satanic, that go to Illuminati rituals. We recently had a minister fly in with his wife. He heard me speaking last summer on my lecture circuit, and when he heard me talk about the Illuminati, he realized there's nobody else that understands the Illuminati or the type of programming I have that can help me. There are very few people out there that understand this. That's why he came to visit us. That's one reason why I needed to talk to your people, Dean, about the Illuminati, is because since we have been here in this conference, there have been a number of people that have come up that have discovered that they have this kind of programming. They've come, they've gotten our material just since we have come to this conference. And there's other people probably that will learn it too. And so it gives people that are victims of this some confidence that there's somebody out there that will understand them when they hear that there's a few people like myself that really understand in depth what the Illuminati is all about. Now, this is comes from a book. I took it from somebody else's book, but this is somebody who's trying to develop artificial intelligence for computers. He's extremely brilliant. He understands the mind perhaps better than anybody, and he's showing the processes of memory and motivation. And I'm just throwing these diagrams up to you to show you that the natural mind is not one monolithic thing, but it's many components. And the Illuminati understand what those components are and how to divide the mind from itself and how to control those processes. For instance, if you electroshock somebody, you destroy their short-term memory for about 24 hours. So every time that Cisco was used for some purpose, let's say she was running drugs for them, or being used as a sexual slave, or whatever they were using her for, on a daily basis practically, they would electroshock her. What that would do is splinter your short-term memory. Once they get you programmed to where they want you, then they will delete your memory of having been used in these things. People that are on sensitive in government projects, if you are in charge of something that takes a classification, you're going to be under mind control. Don't you think that they're smart enough to want to control their secrets? And this was taken at Bethesda, which happens to be a programming center, but it's showing the brain's PT scans of multiples. And you'll see that from when one personality holds the body to another, we've got totally different PT scans. The mind of a multiple personality, and they now call MPD-DID, just recently changed that, I think, to throw some confusion into things. But when you look at the PET scans, they're different. If I try to impersonate a different persona while I'm getting PET scans, my brain will look the same. The programming is layered in, and this comes from another one of our books back there. Cisco did amazing drawings where she invited her different alters, her different personalities to work together on putting down on paper what they were seeing, because they had no talk programming. And the programming that is so sophisticated, in the 3-hour workshop, I'm going to try to go through step by step and give you more of the details of how it's done. And of course, you've got the Volume 2 book, which explains it from A to Z too. But there's so much to talk to you about. I mean, how they're using implants, and on and on and on. And I'd love to tell you everything that I know. But as they go in and splinter a person's mind into thousands of disassociated pieces, they have to put those pieces together in some fashion that's going to be useful to them. So then they're structuring. And as they build the structures, they like to use structures like this. Like this is an infinity type structure, so that the person being programmed, they get a feeling like there's no beginning or no end to the programming. It gives them a hopeless feeling. But the type of sophistication, the level of thinking in this programming is so in-depth. This is when they're doing the structuring. This is the beginning of a chart showing the beginning of some structuring that they're doing. And then when the master finally, the programmer or the handler finally has finished programming the slave, he will have a 3-ring binder, a laptop computer with pages that look like this. And if he wants to call up a particular alter, he would say, like Brown Levi 2003 11A, Brown Levi 2003 11A, Brown Levi 2003 11A. That right there would be the access code to pull up a particular personality that they would want. And a lot of these personalities will not live in reality. They live in a total science fiction world. They've been dehumanized. Here's how one of Cisco's alters perceived herself. And they use Walt Disney movies for the programming. As you can see, this is from a Walt Disney movie where a doorknob it takes on life. If you showed a Walt Disney movie like this, you're creating the images for them to use hypnotically as they go in and do the behavior modification and hypnosis on that altar. And so this could be used to create a doorknob alter within a person's mind. And as they go through the dehumanizing process, like in Cisco's system of alters, all but the front alters in her had lost their hearts. They did hypnotic surgery where they took out the hearts out of these alters and replaced them with a heart of stone. So And that's so that these people can't give their hearts to Jesus, because if you would talk to these altars and say, give your life to Christ, they'd say, I don't have a heart. I'm not a human. And then they've been dehumanized to think that they're maybe a horse or a dog or a cat or whatever. They build bodysuits out of implants. And you heard about last night about the biochip, how they're able to make a miniature computer that's very, very tiny, the size of a cell or even less. That's true. And they attach these tiny, you have to understand how computers are made. All a computer is an on-off switch. Anything that will consistently do one thing consistently, move in a particular direction or something, can be used as an on-off switch. They take strings of carbon atoms, they use DNA templates. Anyway, they make mini computers that are extremely tiny, attach them to viruses. Viruses have a liking for a particular part of the body. They will build a bodysuit of implants in you with these tiny computers, put in a master computer in the back of your neck, and these are just a few of the sites. These are the audio implants. There's about 6 different major categories of implants. You've got mimics implants, you've got auditory implants, holographic implants anyway, and when they program, they layer in the programming. They use a lot of, some of the base programs are your Alien scripts, your Alice in Wonderland, and Wizard of Oz. Those are very common base programming scripts. And also Star Wars and Star Trek. Star Trek's a big one. What are the implications of this mind control? You've heard the term paradigm shift. The implications of this mind control are so mind-boggling that it's taken me years to make what people call the paradigm shift, to really comprehending everything we see. Nothing is as it looks, okay? And anything that is clean has been infiltrated and been dirtied. It's incredible. And this is a newspaper article where people are immigrating, where they're coming into the United States from. And of course, if they put Eastern Europe up here as something, it would be right up there probably in the top 6. But you see Russia and China and Vietnam right up there in the top countries that are sending us immigrants. These are countries that are also practicing mind control. How many Spetsnaz agents have been infiltrated into the United States? We're not being protected, but we're being moved towards a one-world government. Well, they will give us perhaps something that looks like this. This is one of the plans of what they want to give us. It looks real nice, and it looks like we are ruling ourselves through this world's government. The problem is that with the mind control, they will control everything from behind the scenes. So, including, I had a friend who was a mind control victim, and one of the insiders that is trying to fight the New World Order came up to him and said, this was back in 1990, and said, you are a monarch mind-controlled slave. He didn't know what that meant. He said, and this insider said, as proof of who I am and that my information is for real. This was 6 months before the primary election in which Bush and Clinton ran against each other. He pulled out a map, and it had all the votes for the final votes of the presidential campaign, the electoral college votes, and the final popular votes. And these men found out the same thing that I found out from various sources, James Collier and his brother. They spent 20 years tracking down how the voting is rigged. I'm telling you, people, nothing is as it seems, and there are people that can come up here and stand up here and be a lot more humorous than I, and can tell you, that you can vote these people out of office. There is no political system that is going to work anymore when they are making mind-controlled slaves. And I'd love to have all of you come to my workshop, because there's so much that I have to say, and it's so important, and our table's back there. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much, Fritz, for giving us a brief.
Please, support the Soul Space channel at paypal.me/thesoulspace. Thank you so much for your support.